Hey guys, welcome to another video from Historic Militaria. Today we are looking at a relatively interesting and somewhat uncommon helmet, and this is the Czech VZ30, also known as the Spanish M30 helmet. And these were actually, as the name would imply, they were designed in Czechoslovakia and manufactured in Czechoslovakia to be the new Czech service helmet in 1930. For whatever reason, the Czechs decided they were going to go with a different design, which was the 32 or 32/34, which essentially looks like a cereal bowl that you've dumped over your head. This one had a little more panache and actually was kind of a good-looking helmet for the time. So the Spanish decided, hey, we need some helmets because we're fighting the Civil War, and these were actually extensively used by both the Nationalists and the Republicans during the Spanish Civil War of 1936 to 1939. So the vast majority that you're going to find are going to be Spanish Civil War used, Spanish reconditioned, just basically Spanish stuff. So without further ado, the one we're looking at right now is an original with what I do believe is the original paint job, and it certainly does have the original Czech liner in it. And the liner has definitely seen some better days. It doesn't have the drawstring anymore, but that is the original Czech liner they were issued with. I believe this could be an original chin strap. It may be a Spanish replacement. A lot of the chin straps were actually replaced. This one is kind of an interesting helmet in that it's actually got initials of the user carved on the front, and that would be a V. It's really hard to see, and you got to kind of be in some sunlight, but that is actually carved on what ended up being the front of these and also on the inside on the liner. Now, if you'll notice, one thing about these is they've got these big lugs, kind of reminiscent of the German M16, M17 World War I helmets. In the German helmet, that was actually to attach a sort of an armored plate for snipers and machine gunners. This is actually just for ventilation. Even though these stick out pretty far, this is just made for ventilation, and that really is it. Now, apparently the original design of these was for the lugs to be, or lugs/ventilation holes, to be worn to the front. However, in a lot of photos from the Spanish Civil War, you see Spanish soldiers wearing them to the rear. So it's kind of a reversible helmet. It could be worn either way. There's really no right or wrong way, but it seemed like in practice, the lugs generally went to the rear. Certainly a lot that have Spanish emblems on them have it on the front, like this guy right here, which could possibly just have been for a Spanish eagle after the war, or it could have been an actual Spanish insignia during the war. The Spanish were really hot on using insignias on the front of their helmets. I've seen quite a few examples from the Civil War that had various badges and whatnot. This one's definitely been modified for a badge of some sort that is no longer here. And as you can see, that would be with the ventilation holes / lugs to the rear. Now this one actually has what I do believe is a Spanish liner in it. So you've got your, just a little bit different than your original Czech liner. Your Czech liner is going to look very German with your ventilation holes that you're going to see on most German and Czech helmets of the time, and also on quite a few just basically Central and Eastern European helmets retain these for a number of years. Whereas this one is very, very reminiscent of a more basic Spanish liner. The leather is also a little bit different, although it's definitely quite old and quite used. And the chin strap, again, this matches the liner pretty well, so I think this is probably a replaced Spanish chin strap. And this one is painted in a totally different color scheme than this guy, as you can see. You've got sort of a dark olive green versus a much more brown green. And then we have this example right here, which is just in a totally different color scheme that I'm not even really sure who might have done that. but I do believe it's quite an old paint job. This example is pretty beat. It actually does not have a liner anymore, and this is just kind of an example that you can see. It does have a chin strap, which looks like a Spanish replacement. Again, no liner. Somebody actually put just brads in here just to fill the rivet holes, and I'm not really sure who might have painted it but it does look like a military paint job. It is pretty professional. It is pretty even, and I'm sure that this one also came from the Spanish Civil War. A lot of people do not really appreciate these helmets, I think, and therefore you can actually find them for a relatively inexpensive price these days. They are around. They're rare, but they're not unheard of to find if you do a little bit of digging, a little bit of searching. If you are interested in sort of a very unique and interesting helmet that saw a lot of history, a lot of combat, Spanish Civil War is where the Soviets and the Germans both tested their equipment before World War II. And you'll see a lot of Soviet Mosin Nagants come out of the Spanish Civil War. A lot of German equipment went to Spain for testing, the Condor Legion being one of them. So it's a very interesting and fertile time period, and these are definitely helmets that saw a lot of combat and a lot of use, and were even retained by Franco after he won in 39, and were used for a period while the Spanish sort of decided on their own designs and their own equipment. They were equipped with a lot of different countries' stuff, and this is one of them. So just kind of an interesting and very historical helmet designed by the Czechs, manufactured by the Czechs, and taken into service by the Spanish, where they saw quite a bit of action. So if you find one of these, you can know that you probably are touching some pretty interesting history. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more interesting stuff. Remember to like and subscribe so you know when new stuff comes out. Thanks for watching.